Okay.
And we are live. I'm here with Mason. Mason, how you doing?
Good. You?
Great. Nice to see your face. Nice to meet a real live human being that I've been courting on Twitter. You know, a lot of the time we talk with people on Twitter and we try to imagine what they look like, what they sound like, and all that sort of stuff. There's nothing better than actually talking face to face, even though it's across a computer screen or whatever.
Right.
It's a lot better, you know. The Twitter space, the social media, it's kind of hard to get to know someone. So maybe you could talk us through your past, your childhood, your upbringing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you told me that you were raised Christian. Just talk a little bit about how you were raised and how your ideas formed about the world of ideas and philosophy and even
Oh,
religion,
yeah.
if you have one
I
today. Just talk
was
us through that.
yeah. I was raised well Protestant, and m- all of my family is very religious. I was brought up in a Christian home with learning the values and going to Sunday school every Sunday. Um, Actually, my wife that I married went to the same church that I did. Um, I I went to church, through my 20s, and then sort of fell out of it after that. I don't know why exactly. I don't, it just was life, I guess. But yeah, that um,
How old are you today?
I am 48. I had to ask my wife.
Yeah, just you can stand up, let your wife sit down, and she'll take it from here, okay? I'm
Okay, yeah.
kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. I'll do her another day. But no, I mean, talk us through the romance with the wife. Like, how did you court her? How did you meet her? And when did you figure out that she actually likes you back? Or have
Well,
you
that,
figured
that
that out yet?
no, that was well, to make it the short story. Um, Basically, I had no food. She had food.
Ah,
Um,
the way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
yes, and she made me a dinner of roast beef, and I never left. That was it. And,
Wow,
and she had Star Wars on VHS, and that was, another thing that sealed the deal.
cool.
Between the Star Wars and the food, I couldn't leave.
How many
Um,
years you been together now?
I want to say 17.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
17 years.
Nice. Yeah, I'm 27 years married to my wife.
Oh, wow.
27 years in. It's a beautiful thing. We don't have any children, which is sad, but it's a beautiful thing having a best friend in the home
Yeah,
with two legs. Like a best friend with two legs is better than a best friend with four legs,
yeah,
I think.
yeah. I have a few kids. I have three kids and three grandchildren. So
Nice. Congratulations. It's a beautiful thing. So I see that you're a Trump supporter or an ironic uh, wearer of Trump shirts. Talk a little bit about your worldview in terms of Antifa, Trump, the right, the left, all the nonsense.
well,
What's going on? You're down in the States, right? I'm up here in Canada, so it might be a slightly different sort of communism that we got going on up here. But
yeah, yeah.
what's your take on the world of ideas, and is there a truth or is there not a truth? And I don't know if you even believe in God today, but just talk to me about
Oh, yeah.
ideas
No, I
and stuff like
never,
that.
I never lost faith. The institutional part of the church is
You're
what.
not practicing going to church every Sunday and
Right. My
stuff like
church
that.
is the woods. That's where I go. I go out in the wilderness, and that's where I feel in touch with God. It's not,
Okay.
sitting in a between
Building
four
in a building.
walls. That just doesn't do it for me.
Right.
So
Right. So
that's
if you fear God, then you certainly must be annoyed with all the relativism, all the nonsense that's
yes,
dominating politics. So just talk about your perspective, because if you're wearing a Trump shirt, you're probably countercultural and swimming against the tide, right?
well, yeah. Well, the Trump shirt, I got this. I worked the campaign when he was elected originally.
Ah, ah.
Um, I was in charge of my county, which is the largest county east of the Mississippi in the United States. I was coordinating call centers, knocking on doors, recruiting volunteers, And before that, I had no political. I was an independent. I was green independent from the time I was in 18 until 2016 when I switched to a Republican just to vote for Trump. I was fed up with both sides. I voted for Ross Perot back in the day. I supported Rand Paul. I wasn't really politically to one side or the other, but I was so sick of the way things were. And economically,
Hmm.
the Obama years was terrible. We're back into that now where things are getting terrible again, economically. And, I was worried about my kids, their futures, what are they going to do? And that's why I got involved in politics. And so I ran a big social media group on Facebook. It's long since been censored. But I got all these people involved in the campaign through this social media group. And that's how they reached out to me. And they said, hey, we got nobody that wants to work up there for Trump. Will you want to be his spokesperson? And I'm like, sure, I'll do it. And, why not? So it was probably the funnest experience I've ever had in my life. I met so many great people. I learned how stupid politicians are on both sides of the aisle. But this is just a few years ago when I was really just getting into politics. I, uh, I worked all over the county that I live in, and putting up signs, handing out bumper stickers, shirts, and hats. I would get boxes from Trump Tower full of hats and stuff, and I'd pass them out to people. And I'd knock on doors and talk to people, of course. And it was, of course, I got death threats, a lot of those. Had one person try to sick their dogs on me. So it was interesting, but it's still over the good parts of it outweighed the bad by far.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Which state are you in, if you don't mind saying?
I'm in Maine.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, yeah. I keep asking you the obvious question because your handle is what's your handle on Twitter?
Maine Antifa.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I keep asking you this obvious stupid question, but you're from Maine. Yeah, so because I mean, Maine, I think, is a very liberal place, a progressive place, isn't it?
It's the southern part of Maine is very, very liberal. It may as well, yeah, but I'm in the north and it's very, very red.
Okay.
Trump won here by a literal landslide, I think by 12 points. I was accredited by Steve Bannon for getting that one electoral vote that made him president in
Ah, no
2016.
way.
Uh, so I got to meet Steve Bannon. I got to hang out and have dinner. I got
Nice.
invited to the White House,
Nice.
which was I did go to D.C. too for the inauguration.
Nice.
Um, it was
Wow.
quite an interesting adventure to meet all these people. President Trump talked to my son for several minutes, which at the time he was quite young, and he still talks about it to this day.
Wow.
We got the signed hats. We got, you know,
Yeah.
I met all of the Trump's kids. It was quite an adventure.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, it made me very hated, locally and afar. And that's what led me to make this account that I run on Twitter now,
Ah,
um, because it's these people hated me so much and were always threatening me, and I just I wanted to do something to, like, you know not really get back at them, but point out their idiocy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And comedy, as you know, is a powerful weapon, and that's I like making people laugh. That's the whole reason I made the account anyway. It was just to make people laugh. But while doing that, throwing in little ideology here and there, to make people think at the same time.
Of course.
Um,
Of course. So, I have to say that I am bitterly disappointed that Trump was so impotent when it came to the 2020 nonsense and when it came to I don't like what he did with the whole jab. I've heard arguments of why he did the light speed thing and all that, but
Yeah, yeah,
I'm unjabbed, and a lot of Trump supporters are unjabbed, and so that disappointed me. And he's a bit older now. He's still my favorite politician of all time, just because of his charisma and because he gets the people riled up, the populist
yeah,
vibe. He gets the people like no one else can. And so I do love him and respect him, even though I'm very, very disappointed at how things turned out. I'm very
yeah.
disappointed. Very
And
disappointed.
yeah, I hear you. I was disappointed with a lot of things. I mean, I know a lot was out of his control, like the
Mm,
border wall and things like that. I mean, Congress, I believe, purposely sat on their hands and did nothing, because they didn't want him in there. I think a lot of it was that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Another reason I think he lost is, in 2016, people like me worked on his campaign. It wasn't.
Ah.
It, Republicans didn't want anything to do with it.
It was a sneak attack.
They
It was a
saw
sneak
him.
attack with the little guy like you. It was a sneak attack. Whereas when the machinery took over,
Right,
they weren't really into it.
right. The machinery took over, and when the 2020 came around, it was run by GOP interns, most of which you could probably say are about as far right as a communist. I mean, they're basically the same, two sides of the same coin. They're basically far left ideology, but sure they have fiscal conservatism, but they're not. I don't consider them, conservatives, because they don't conserve anything. But these people took over the campaign, and I think that's a lot of the reason he lost too.
Yeah.
Um,
I personally don't agree with Trump on a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, I personally question his. I think he's a centrist. I think he's actually pro-choice. I'm pro-life. Like, I'm anti-abortion. I think he's okay with certain kinds of abortion. I don't know how Christian he is. I like to give him the benefit of the doubt and hope that he's Christian. I don't know. Maybe you know better than I do, but I'm a Christian. And we can't judge the heart anyway, right?
I didn't vote for him because of his religion. I voted for him because he's a businessman
Yeah.
and not a politician.
Yeah,
Those are the two.
exactly,
Those are the two
exactly,
things.
exactly, exactly. So what I'm saying here is, I don't have
Yeah,
to agree with him to get behind him and to get excited by him and all these sorts of things. And of course, that's all a bit jaded now because of the way things have transpired. We've gone backwards, not forwards,
right.
since his term. And I got kicked off YouTube for questioning what happened in 2020. So I'm not going to talk about that because
Yeah, I was
that's
kicked off Facebook for that.
yeah, we're
So,
not allowed to talk about that, which means, why can't we talk about that?
right,
But anyway, anyway, so anyway, the whole point is that power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and it's no longer about you. It's no longer about me. It's not about the little person, the hardworking businessman or the hardworking blue collar worker. It's not about us. It's about these career opportunist politicians. And this is, I'm not just complaining for the sake of complaining. I'm
yeah,
complaining because what democracy is supposed to be, we have the exact opposite now. And I don't
right,
know for how many decades it's been like this, but people like power and they don't want to relinquish their power. And they're not so
right,
concerned about what the people want. And that's why the populist movement, whether it's flawed or whether it's perfect, doesn't matter. The populist movement at its core is about the people. And that's what representative democracy is supposed to be about. Up here in Canada, it's supposed to be representative democracy based on the
right.
British model. I don't know what you came up with down there, but I think you're supposed to represent your people when you go to
Yeah,
the House or
yeah,
wherever.
it's the same. It's the same here. There's really no difference. And we're in the same boat. We don't. Our politicians don't represent us. They represent themselves.
And the interests of special interests, international
Right.
globalists, whatever.
Yep.
So, yeah, what's the future? I mean, I don't normally talk a lot about politics, but it's become integrated with, with education and with everyone's worldview. People are brainwashed, for lack of a better word. They're brainwashed and they don't know right from left, up from down, man from woman. So this is the world we're
Right.
living in. So we kind of have to talk about, we're kind of forced to talk about politics, even if you don't want to. And so
Right.
I guess we can talk about it a little bit. But Christine Anderson Carson's a European member of parliament. She's from Germany. She came to Canada recently. She just, she may have left today. My wife went to see her here in Quebec last night, and there was a sort of a gala dinner party. And she's one of these people who's criticizing the globalists, criticizing the tyranny of Trudeau and different people like that. And she's getting behind the people ostensibly. Who knows? We can't judge her heart, but from what she's saying, it sounds like kind of what Trump has been saying. It's for about the people and about putting, in your case, putting America first, or up here, put Canada first, like having a certain type of nationalism which is sane and healthy and balanced, not some crazy demonic thing that the left wants to describe nationalism as. I mean, I don't know why the left is even against populism. They used to represent the little worker, right, and they no longer do. So things have really flipped on their head, right?
Right. Grassroots Trump was a grassroots campaign.
Yeah.
When he started out. It was people on the ground like me who had never been in politics in their life jumping into this stuff, blindly. But it was a machine. I mean, there were so many of us all in this coordinated, and it was a positive thing. There was nothing negative about it. Nothing, everything was positive. We just, everybody got along. It was great. It's just the whole thing with the non-representation now in government is just that's what sparked a lot of these people, and I think it's going to be hard for him to re-spark that, ignite that this time around.
Yeah.
You really only got one shot, when you're going to build an army like that of dedicated people. To get them back, it's going to take, it's going to take some work. You guys in Canada, I don't know how you're going to get out of the mess you guys are in.
Did you like the trucker convoy thing that we did up here?
Yes, that was excellent. I followed that pretty closely the whole way through.
Did you get teary watching the families on the overpasses and all that? Was it emotional for you?
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yes. And I felt for them. I just, the whole time I'm watching, it's like, man, I think these guys, they're so great that they're standing up to this crap. It's just the insanity, and the whole COVID thing here was pretty bad too. So there was quite a few protests against that as well. But the trucker convoys got a lot of steam.
Yeah. So, we do outnumber the bad guys. It's just a fact, and it's always been the case. It's always been the case that the regular, normal people, warts and all, I'm not saying we're perfect, okay? No. But we want to live and let live, and we want to, we don't want to string up people just because they have different skin color. I mean, I don't know why racism is even a thing in 2023. Yeah, right? It's just a myth.
It's political. They want people to be divided. So they want people to hate each other, because as long as they're focused on that, they're not focusing on what these politicians are doing. That's the whole game.
But we do outnumber them, and if we could wake up, and I do hate to say this, but I'm a Christian, so I'm gonna preface my statement with a Christian disclaimer. Okay, yeah. I'm against violence, and Jesus Christ said, look, if I wanted to bring an army, I've got armies of legions of angels I could bring. That's not the game that I'm playing. I'm here. My kingdom is not of this world. My kingdom is in heaven. And so I'm a Christian. So I too am going to suffer and die and hopefully go to heaven. Okay. So I'm not about Judas's way. Judas wanted violent revolution. I'm not about that. Okay. But having said that, for the people who are naive about politics and that think they can make a protest, or they can vote in the right politician and affect a positive change that's really deep and substantial and meaningful, that's incredibly naive, I think. And I'm not condoning violence, but the only way that big change will come is through violence. And there's that's the silver lining on a big hot mess of ugliness. And I do not want that. I'm not promoting that idea. I'm not encouraging that or condoning it. But to be realistic, that's the only thing I think that will make a significant change other
Yeah,
than the spiritual dimension where everyone just suddenly looks inside and realizes, I'm not God, God is God, I'm going to submit to God, I'm going to pursue the virtues, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be kind, I'm going to be hardworking, and all these sorts of things. Is that spiritual awakening happening? I don't know. Maybe it is. But I, as an individual, I have to make that choice every day. You have to make that choice every day when you're out in the woods communing with God. You are striving for virtue. You don't want to be a thug or a liar or a criminal. And neither do I. It's not easy living the straight life because, it's easier just to cheat, to get ahead. And then
right.
you've got all your buddies and your worldwide mafia and just life is good, right? But we have chosen a different path, or at least speaking for myself, and I'll let you fill in the gaps on your side. You
Right.
agree? You agree or you disagree? You're
Oh,
you're with
yeah,
me on
no,
this?
I agree with everything you're saying, and I just don't know how we're ever going to vote our way out of this predicament that we're in. And there isn't many other options to go from here. Yeah, and I don't see how some kind of a civil war would work. I think it's going to have to be a civil Cold War. I don't think a violent war would actually play out the way anybody wants. You
They'd love
know,
it. They'd love us to try it. The powers that be would just love that because then that
so
justifies that. Because you know what Trudeau did with the peaceful protests in Ottawa with the bouncy castles, right? He invoked the Emergencies Act,
yeah,
and it took a year to produce the trial and the document that said, yeah, it was justified. So the Commissioner Rouleau made a statement and put together a document saying, yeah, it was justified. It was a justified act to call the Emergencies Act. And clearly it wasn't. So, I mean, I disagree with his honor.
right.
But this is the way it works when you have power and you've got your power structure, and it's like you can get away with murder. And if the people want to rise up at the first inkling that they're boiling over a little bit, you're justified in clamping down. That's the way it's going to work. So that's another reason why I don't condone violence for
Well,
political
look at what they
ends.
did to the people of January 6th here in the
Yeah,
state.
horrific,
They
horrific.
they threw those people away, lock and key, in solitary confinement for trespassing.
It's ridiculous.
Something that the other side does on a
Antifa,
regular basis while protesting,
mostly peaceful.
and at best a fine, a
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
$50 fine or
yeah,
something ridiculously, and or probation for doing serious crimes like arson and things like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But if it's a political protest, they generally go very light on these people, but they wanted to make an example of these people because they were not of that political alignment and just basically threw the book at them. And I think it's sickening, and
Yep.
it's this is something that happens in third world countries.
Yeah.
What we got going on over here. One of my old associates from Twitter is now facing 10 years in prison for a meme.
Ah.
Uh, Douglas Mackey, he went by the name Ricky Vaughn on Twitter, and he posted a meme, and it was kind of like the stuff I do, just ridiculous, off the wall memes. But he's getting charged for election interference. And the only way they could charge him was to use a law from the Civil War era. And it's completely outlandish. It's draconian, third world shit that our government is doing. Excuse my language, but it's
ridiculous.
it's out of hand here with the censorship, which I'm fortunate that Elon has kind of freed us up a little again so we can speak. My account was banned for like 5 years.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I just recently got it back like last week or 2 weeks ago.
Oh, really? Okay. I just
Yeah.
joined. The only reason I joined is because Elon took over, and I don't trust him obviously completely. I don't trust any human
Oh, no,
completely, obviously. But there's this idea going around that there'd be more freedom and these sorts of things. So I just joined for that reason. And the whole social media thing, it's a tool that could be used for good or for evil. And I just like to meet people and have find guests for
yeah,
my podcast and stuff like that. And there is a bit of a cesspool when it comes to politics. It's dark. It is dark on the
right,
left. It's dark on the right. It's dark in the center. It's dark everywhere because because power is being abused. Like it's being abused. We are not being Christ-like with our use of political power, and that's a major understatement. What do you think about, and this is a very controversial topic, what do you think about someone that claims to be Christian, someone like Ye and Nick Fuentes, that are hinting at the idea of possibly running in the future in the presidential thing? What do you think about that? Is there anything there that you like or no?
It's a meme. I mean,
Okay.
it's yeah. I don't take it seriously.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
No one's taking that serious. No one's taking that seriously.
No, no. He's just trying. It's a publicity thing.
Okay.
He's not. He's not going to get anywhere.
Okay.
He won't even make it on the ballot in most of the states. So
Okay. Okay. Okay.
um,
Yeah.
it's not a serious thing.
Okay.
A lot of times people do this to just for that to get their name out there.
I
You
see.
know,
Okay.
I don't. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He doesn't strike me as the type that has the character or the charisma to or the intelligence, frankly, to pull off a campaign. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what happens down there. But another guy they're talking about is DeSantis. I never really liked him, even though he's Catholic or he claims to be Catholic or whatever. I don't really like him or trust him. That's just my instinct. Maybe I'm wrong. I haven't looked into it, and frankly, I don't have that. I don't know that much about him.
exact.
What's your
That's the
gut tell you?
exact impression I've got from him. I've never trusted him. He was kind of a Jeb or a George Bush type
Oh yeah.
um, when he was in Congress.
Uh,
He's going to continue the wars that
yeah.
we're already in, and he's basically a neocon hack, and he's kind of riding on the Trump populism
Uh,
bandwagon.
uh,
But I don't think he's really going to be a populist. He's going to be a Jeb Bush. He's going to get in there. He's going to do the same stuff Joe Biden is doing right now, and maybe give us a 2% tax cut to call himself a conservative. I just don't see any change happening with someone like DeSantis. But would he be better than Biden? Absolutely. And if it came down to him having to be on the ballot, yes, I would vote for him. Would I go knock on doors for him and put up signs and put in thousands of hours of work? No. I wouldn't. I don't think I could invest into a person like that.
anyone
So
else? Anyone else's name being floated around for 2024?
the only other I'd like to see run, I'd like to see Tulsi Gabbard run.
Okay, I don't know that person.
She is well, she just left the Democratic Party.
Oh,
Um,
okay, okay, yeah. I heard about
and
her. Yeah.
yeah, she became an independent, and she was a Democrat, but she's got very common sense values. I'd like to see her run, possibly with Trump as as a VP,
Cool.
but I doubt that's going to happen. I mean, but it would be a good running mate for him to pull in that independent and in the middle ground votes. I think he would clean house with that. But
Wow, that's cool.
I just don't see her doing it. But
And are Trump's kids? Do they have their sights on political careers or no?
not. I wouldn't have any way of knowing that now. I I doubt it after they've seen what happened. With how how they treat Don Jr. would probably be the only one out of them that I would even support for anything.
Okay.
Um, Ivanka, when she took over her and Jared Kushner took over the role of Steve Bannon, when they ousted him, um, everything went to hell with his
Oh,
message, and everything was
oh,
just terrible. So I wouldn't even want, to see that.
yeah.
I don't think they would do very well either, with the exception of maybe Don Jr., who he's kind of a firebrand himself a little bit. So
Mm.
I could possibly see him down the road going into politics, but that I wouldn't know for sure.
Is Bernie Sanders still thinking about doing something, or they squashed his dreams so many times that he's got no chance?
I doubt he could. I doubt he could. I don't think he would have Well, I mean, they did get Joe Biden up there, but I just think he's too old.
Oh, okay. But they did
Yeah.
him dirty a couple of times, right?
Oh, they did. Yeah, they screwed over Bernie quite badly.
Is he a
Um,
populist kind of guy on the left? Is he a populist?
yeah, he's kind of the opposite of Trump,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
far as that goes. He's the wild card kind of independent Democrat.
Uh,
But he's basically just a communist. I mean, he's a full blown communist. So it was a little too much for you know, the middle of the road Democrats to even go near.
uh,
So
what about Rand Paul? You mentioned him earlier. Is he good?
he's okay, but I don't see him. I don't see him running for president either.
No.
No, and I don't think anybody on the right is going to run against Trump through the duration. We're going to have maybe a few people say they're going to step up, and then just end up dropping once
Oh,
they
okay.
realize their poll numbers are right in the crapper. I don't think there's any. We're kind of stuck with Trump. There is no other choice.
What about the
It's
greasy
either,
rat? Who's that greasy rat guy? Do you remember him?
oh, there's so many of those.
No, the one he was like he was running in 16. Do you remember him?
McMullen.
No, dark-haired guy. What's his nickname is Greasy Rat. Uh, Republican. You just think of a dark-haired guy. I think he's a lawyer. There are a lot of them are lawyers. Republican rat. No, there are too many Republican rats to list here, so I can't find him. Oh, Ted Cruz. Is that his name?
Oh, Ted Cruz.
Is that his name?
Yeah, yeah, Ted Cruz. Yeah, I don't think he'll run against Trump. I don't. It would damage him too badly. Getting a second loss to him.
Okay.
But possibly 10 years, maybe he could run. Um,
Because
but
I took a quiz back in 16 about which of the Republican candidates or whatever they were running at the time, which one appealed to lined up with my values the most, and he actually lined up with my values the most for some reason. I don't know why.
yeah, and he's not bad. I don't dislike Ted Cruz. If he would have won in 2016, I would have voted for him. But there again, he's your run-of-the-mill politician
Yeah.
who talks out of one side of the mouth and does something different with,
Yeah.
behind closed doors.
Hypocrite.
He talks a lot and he says a lot of great things. He really doesn't do anything. That's the problem.
Perfect
He's the first
politician.
person he's always going on about internet censorship and all these other problems, but never does anything about them. He's got the power to, but all he does is talk. So that's one of those things. Yes, I like the things he says. He's got a good background, but he's your run-of-the-mill, do-nothing politician. So,
Wow. So I want to change gears a little bit and talk about the nonsense, which is climate change, what they used to call global warming. And I want to talk about the hypocrisy of the green movement and the war in Ukraine and how they're connected, and just sort of the hypocrisy of counting every little tiny gnat and filtering out a gnat and then swallowing the camel of all these environmental disasters like they don't even care, like
right.
Ohio and whatever, and it's just
Oh,
like it
it's
just
been
doesn't make
one after
sense.
the other over here, and I'm what you would call an environmentalist. I
Of
love
course.
nature. I'm always in the woods. I teach my kids not to throw their wrappers on the ground, and
Yeah.
if we find garbage in the woods, we pick it up.
Yeah.
Um,
Common sense. You have common sense. Would you rather breathe clean air or polluted air? Would you rather drink clean water
right,
or polluted water? We're all on the same page, okay?
right.
What I'm talking about is the ideology of this
Oh, I know.
nonsense, the anti-human nonsense.
It's not even an ideology or science. It's at this point, it's a religion.
Yeah.
It's transformed into a cultish, some kind of. I don't even know how to describe it. It's not science based. It's not reality based. It's just a twisted religion that they've invented, um, and it's all about money. It's marketing. They want to sell these Chinese solar panels that they're putting all over my state right now,
Oh,
and they're all covered in snow. And then they're cutting the tops off of mountains and putting up windmills that only work for a few months, and then they're broken 6 months out of the year. Um, it's a colossal waste of resources. And it's lining those politicians' pockets that are pushing this nonsense. And the whole thing pretty much disgusts me, of the way the environmental movement has gone. It's not even about the environment anymore. They could care less. There's probably 500 million masks thrown on the ground now because of the pandemic,
oh yeah,
and
oh
nobody
yeah.
bats an eye at that. Nobody bats an eye at the big, chemical explosions we had recently. It's just they just care about Greta Thunberg and her little,
Virtue
speeches
signaling.
about, how we got to switch to green energy. That's all it's about. They want to take away fossil fuels and basically force this electric through before the technology is there.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very
And whereas
damaging. It's a very damaging technology that has a larger carbon footprint. Like I mean,
right,
doesn't make any sense. But this is the whole point of tyranny: is they like to not make sense because it's just part of their breaking the human spirit and breaking the
right,
solidarity of the people. It's just like we're so confused about like, well, hold on, wait a minute, it doesn't make sense. So we're busy explaining to them how crazy they are, and they just go on doing their thing. Like,
oh yeah,
you know, it's ridiculous. Like, and that's obviously by design. Like, if they wanted to make sense, they could make sense, but they don't want to make sense. It's not profitable.
right,
It's not profitable to make sense and to be reasonable. It's profitable to just manipulate the markets and manipulate the people and keep us enslaved. And this is why I say this: the only answer is a spiritual answer. We have to detach from this world. It's a beautiful world. God created a beautiful world, but it's, who's the prince of this world? It's Satan. And not to over dramatize, but
right,
there's a lot of dark forces at work in politics and in business and in everything. And even in the cute little family that you think is perfect, you go behind the scenes, you look in what's happening behind closed doors. You see all kinds of documentaries about sexual abuse or just all
right,
kinds of horrific stuff that humans are capable of. So the solution is education, having a solid, family, keep your family strong and educated with good principles and common sense, right?
right, right.
So it's an uphill battle, but each one of us, regular folks, we have to resist the temptations of the devil. And
Oh,
are you there? Yeah. Okay.
yeah, no,
I could still
sorry, I
see you.
plugged in my phone and it freaked out.
I could still see you. I could still hear you. So the connection's good. So what does the future hold? I mean, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but I mean, I'm kind of banking on, just sort of checking out of this life and going to heaven. That's kind of where all my hopes lie. I don't have a lot of hope. Do you have a more optimistic view, or what's your deal?
Well, I have to. I mean, I've
You got your
got
kids. You
to,
got your kids.
yes, I've got kids and they have kids. So I've only got one left at home, and he's just a few years, away from moving out himself. So
Yeah.
um, so I kind of have to, even though I'm not very optimistic, I have to at least have some kind of hope, that something is going to change for the better, for them.
Well, what do the young people think of all the stupid old politicians? Like, what do they think about them?
The the ones that, I mean, of course, my kids are going to be very right, leaning, but it really depends on their parents, how their upbringing.
Uh, uh, uh,
I don't You don't see a lot of it. It's kind of like religion. My my grandparents were very conservative. I was raised very conservative. My parents were, Yeah, and the schools are very left leaning.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying to indoctrinate that leftist ideology, and but the kids don't take it. They're going to do what they get at home. You know, my
Okay.
son comes and tells me things that they say in school, and I say that's a bunch of baloney. And he said that's what I told the teacher, and she got mad. You know, they just don't. Kids are going to pretty much do what their parents, you know, how they raise them. Those values are just. It's a lot like religion, you know. It, that passes. That's a family thing. You don't see many people raised Catholic becoming Mormons. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't see many conservative people just turning Democrats. It just doesn't. It just doesn't work that. It can happen. I mean, I could convert to Judaism or something tomorrow, but I wouldn't do that. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
It
but
does
people
start in
do
the
that.
home.
I
It
mean,
does start in the home and in the family, and that's why there's a big attack on the family through
right,
saying, well, this is the new marriage, and marriage could be like this, and you could be like that, and we could bend the rules and change the definition, and the family is under attack for just that reason, because it is the safe place where the kids can get those common sense values instilled into them, and the fear of God and everything
right,
else. And so the enemies of humanity, the enemies of God, they have to attack the family. It's the top
right,
priority for sure. For sure.
right,
It's the church. Like that is the church, right? In a microscopic
right,
picture of,
right,
of what the church is. And then the different families in the community can come together and form a community, obviously, right?
right, right.
But how big is your community? Are you in an urban or a rural setting there?
Very rural.
Okay.
I'm basically in the forest. There's not a
Ah,
lot here.
okay.
Uh, we have a. I think my town has. Yeah, we're close to Canada, just a few miles away from the border. But there's, I think, 11,000 people in our town, and it's the biggest city in this whole region.
Ah.
So it's we're not in a very. It's a very secluded area.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I wonder if the internet has corrupted the wholesome sort of blue collar, common sense attitude of people who live in rural areas, because it used to be that the isolation would help to foster more of that wholesome community and the family
right,
vibe. But the internet can sneak in. Now your kids could be going against your wishes and watching pornography and all kinds of stuff.
right, right.
And kids do that. They find this dark stuff. I did when I was a kid. That was even before the internet. So
Oh yeah.
we have to be on guard against technology and everything. So I wonder if that's affecting the landscape politically, if they're creeping into the hearts and minds of the kids through the internet. What do you think?
Again, I'm not gonna, you know, come out as anti-internet. There's a lot of like the pornography and stuff. Yeah, that's a problem. I mean, but back in the day, I found the books
Exactly.
in
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
camp. They had a whole box of them at camp, and but it's not a lot has changed. I mean, yes, there's a lot more information out there. And you got these people like on Reddit trying to convert people trans um, children,
Ooh,
um,
ooh.
which is, kind of disgusting. I think the predatory aspect of the internet is probably the worst part of it. But otherwise, I overall see it as a positive thing. I mean, I like to be able to communicate with people. I live in the middle of nowhere. How could I ever, get involved? I wouldn't have been able to get involved in politics if it wasn't for the internet,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have. No one ever would have found me. Yeah, I'm in the middle
Yeah.
of the woods, so
Yeah.
um, it's so there is upsides to the the communication, but I think the predators out there on the internet are the ones that really need to be cracked down on hard. Um, like the pedophiles and all those on that were on Twitter that Elon deleted,
Okay.
and Reddit is still a very bad place for that. A lot of people on there are basically just stalk young people and try to convert them, to their religion, which is, homosexuality and transvestites and, all that,
Yeah, and there's more coming down the pike. Like they have more in store for us. When they talk about the slippery slope, there's a lot coming down the line. In Spain, they just decriminalized bestiality. There's polyamory, which means multiple partners.
yeah,
There's incest, which is very popular but very secretive in a lot of families. Especially back in the day, it was the joke that the urban city dwellers, the intellectuals, would make fun of the people in the country, like that they're doing incest and stuff like that. But now it's the academics that are pushing for this,
yeah,
and for all kinds of stuff, pedophilia, like you said. They're sort of normalizing that, minor attracted persons and so forth. And Alan Kinsey, I think his name was, he was a famous sexologist, infamous in my eyes because he was giving orgasms to 3-year-olds and stuff like that, like 40 orgasms a day or whatever, keeping careful notes. And, oh, isn't this fascinating? No, it's not fascinating. You're sick in the head. Right. And then they build a statue for this guy and they give him all kinds of prizes like he's a genius. And we wonder,
right,
and this is decades ago, and we wonder why we're messed up in our education system and with sex
right,
education and these sorts of things. It's a hot mess. It really is a
yeah,
hot mess. A lot of, we learned a lot through the past couple of years through the illness which shall not be named because I don't want to get kicked off of YouTube. But we learned a lot about how even if you're nice and you don't necessarily agree, but you justify your compliance because it's just 2 weeks to flatten the curve, or it's just 1 month to whatever, and it's just this, it's just that, and it's just a little
yeah,
compromise. It's just a little compromise, and I'm a nice guy, and I don't want to rock the boat. And then 2 years later, it's like, where did we end up? It's there's this notion, this idea of the banality of evil, like back in the World War II, the Nazi concentration camps where they killed Catholics and Jews and homosexuals and gypsies and everyone else that they didn't like. Allegedly, I mean, I don't know what really happened, but I mean, that's the story. I'm comfortable with going with the mainstream story on that until proven
right, right.
otherwise, whatever. But I don't have a
You don't
dog in
want to get
that.
canceled. You don't want to get canceled
I
because
don't
you're
have a
funny,
dog in
man.
that fight at all. I don't have a dog in the fight, other than to say, we do have a Catholic saint that was canonized, and he was killed in Auschwitz or somewhere. So, I basically believe the story. But the point here is the banality of evil allows nice, normal people to just go along with evil because it's just the polite thing to do at the time. It's just your job, and I'm just doing my job. And so it is a very difficult behavior to curb because it's like that, like we always talk about the boiling of the frog. Like he's not going to notice, he's not going to hop out of the pot until it's too late. So
Right.
a lot of nice, normal people just going along to get along, it's very, very deadly. It's very, very efficient tool in the toolkit of Satan to enslave us, really. So what
Yeah,
do you think
yeah.
about this idea of nice, normal people just being polite and going along to getting along and sort of complying more and more and more and more? Is there a breaking point where people wake up, they get quote unquote red pilled, and they wake up and they become populists, and then they're the racist, and then they become a
Yeah,
racist?
yeah, yeah.
It's hard to embrace that, but some people do it, right? They hop over the fence and they become on the other side of the aisle. They become the bad
Well,
guy.
I think we're going to see a lot of that with people that were sort of apolitical, but now that the economy is going down the crapper,
Yeah,
it's going to push people to be more conservative.
yeah,
I mean, it's going to push a lot of younger people are going to start backing off from this woke nightmare that we're going into. I think we're going to see at some point a reversal, and the whole ideology of woke is going to collapse as a religion. It's going to die. And I think it's going to happen very soon. I
yeah.
really do. I think
Why
it's
don't
going to be
you run?
within.
Why don't you run in 2024?
Oh God, no.
It just occurred to me. It just occurred to me.
No, I have no. I've helped politicians. I do consulting. I do campaign work, but I have no aspirations to run for office. I'm just
You,
not.
you don't have the stomach
Um,
for it?
yeah, and I'm a terrible public speaker. I'm just.
Uh,
I got up on stage and had to speak at a caucus, and I just got total stage fright.
uh,
Even though I was a musician, I was in bands for years, but
uh,
when I had to get up and just speak, I just totally bumbled it. I mean, I look like a blithering fool up there. I still did it. I pushed
uh,
through,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, I just don't have the yeah. I'm not that
You're
kind of.
not
I
built
like
for that. You're
talking to
not built for
people.
that. Yeah.
I'll go up to one-on-one, talk to folks, but when I have to get up and speak, no.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I understand completely. Just what kind of music do you make? Is it like rock and roll or
Well, yeah, in the early 2000s, I was in a heavy metal band. I had a blue
ah,
mohawk.
ah,
Yeah,
ah?
we did a lot of um, it, 90s, heavy stuff.
Okay,
Uh, Limp Bizkit,
okay.
break stuff. We were really pretty hardcore.
Any
Um,
originals? Any original tunes?
I do that now. Yeah, that's I do. I don't like playing covers. That's why I got out of the band scene. Also, I was getting too old to be out at clubs
Yeah,
at
yeah, yeah,
3 o'clock
yeah,
in the morning. So now I just play, at my house with a couple people, usually once a week, and we just I just make stuff up. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
like to
You
improv.
you sing and you play guitar.
Yep. Yep.
That's your main. Those are your two main instruments.
Yes. Yeah.
You don't do any other instruments so much.
I've monkeyed around. I used to play bass.
Okay.
I can play most of the instruments a little bit, but I prefer the guitar.
You don't do
Yeah,
any post production or any computer MIDI music and that sort of
nah,
stuff. Not no.
not live. I just like live playing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What are this is a major tangent, but what are some of your favorite bands from back in the day? Like, do you agree with me that something magical happened in the '60s and '70s with music? Like, it was actually better music back then, or no?
Well, I mean, I like a lot of the classic '60s and '70s, but I grew up in the '80s. I was hair metal all the way.
Ah, really? Okay, okay,
Judas
okay.
Priest, Ozzy Osbourne. I was right
Ah,
in.
my wife's into
Um,
all that stuff. She likes the glam rock, though. Glam.
right. Yeah, I mean, I had some of the glam rock. That was when girls came over because they liked it. But I was
Yeah.
more into the harder the harder stuff. I really was a metalhead. I had long hair. I wore leather jackets. I mean,
Okay, okay.
uh,
That's probably yeah, that's so you won't be attracted to like the hippy dippy vibe and all that sort of stuff
oh
from the
no, I
60s.
love. I went to see Fish too.
Okay, okay, okay.
I was into. I like listening to that stuff, but it was a little before my time. But yes, I mean, I listened to the Beatles, and
Okay.
um, I like a lot of the older bands.
But what about in 2023? Like is there new music that appeals to you? Like do you flip on the radio and just say, "Hey, this is a catchy
Yeah,
tune," or no?
I can't. I hate. There's nothing on the radio that I even listen to. I
Uh,
just can't even stand it. It's
oh, okay.
yeah.
So you don't watch those stupid satanic music award shows with the stupid satanic shows and all that crap?
No, 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 no,
You don't watch any of that. You're not. It doesn't appeal to you. Same thing.
nothing.
Same thing with the Hollywood and the movies. They used to be able to craft some good stories with good storyline and good actors and stuff like that. Do you find the quality's gone down with TV and movies, or no? Is it just my
Oh yeah,
imagination,
yeah,
or
absolutely. The movies is just terrible now. Television is terrible. I find.
is it because we're old fuddy duddies and every generation goes through this, or is it actually
Oh
crap?
no,
Is it really
no, it's
crap?
because they're making crap. Intentionally producing crap and shoving their political
Uh,
ideology into everything now,
okay, okay.
which makes it even crappier.
So
So
the art is an afterthought. Like any artistic stuff would be an
right,
afterthought.
they've got to put the politics first and foremost. They've got to meet their quotas on diversity and inclusion, and then they have to put in their political talking points. And it's one thing after the other. I find now that I struggle to even find anything worth watching I'll watch some new show and maybe watch 2 episodes, shut it off. And I'm watching reruns of Quantum Leap or, Star Trek Next Generation or something,
Yeah.
something that's, much older. Um, there is a few good ones here and there that are new, but for the majority of what they're producing, it's just hot garbage. I just can't. The Marvel stuff is turning into garbage. It's Star Wars. They turn that into garbage,
What, you
which was
don't like Jar Jar Binks? What's your problem?
right. Actually, Jar Jar Binks makes the newer stuff look,
Oh, really?
it,
It
oh
went
yeah,
downhill
yeah.
from there?
Oh yeah, it went.
Are you
No, Jar Jar
serious?
Binks is that's those movies are actually good in comparison to the newer stuff.
Oh, because
It's
I
just,
stopped with Jar Jar Binks. That's where I stopped watching
oh, if you
Star
want,
Wars.
don't, then you're good. Don't watch any of the new ones because they're just it god awful.
Oh,
It
oh, it's horrible, horrible. What do your kids say about music and TV and movies? Did they like any of the new stuff?
no, my son doesn't watch. He watches Trailer Park Boys. That's the only thing he watches. He doesn't really watch television. Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and yeah, he doesn't watch. We don't even have cable in our house.
Oh,
We
okay.
haven't since my son was born, pretty much. Shortly after, we have streaming,
Oh, yeah.
and
I wanted to ask you, this is a good segue. There are a lot of YouTubers and talking heads on the internet, like conservative pundits, and like you got all these guys with household names. Steven Crowder, he's in controversy recently
right,
because all that stuff, and a lot of so-called conservatives or whatever, and they're very popular. And
mm,
I wonder if there's any way to know if they're just grifting and making a buck, or
grifters, yeah.
if they're sincere, and are they really populists? Are they really do they really care about us? I don't watch these guys, but my friend does, and I just wonder, like, are they there for you, or are they just doing their job and this is
I
their
don't
job?
really
And
watch. I don't really watch or follow those guys, those e-celebrities I call them.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
What's your
every
gut
once in a
say?
while, someone will shoot me one in an email, a message or something. Hey, watch this, and I'll maybe watch 10 seconds of it and shut it off.
What does
But,
your gut tell you? Is it just a grift or what?
well, I mean, it might not maybe I would say a lot of it is. Um, I know a lot of them were just came out of the woodwork in like 2015 when Trump was running and kind of to jump on that bandwagon, but they were actually leftists before that. So,
Ah.
um, but there are, I'm sure there are ones that are, sincere about what they're doing, but they're still grifting. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, if they're selling something, they're grifting.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
So,
the big name, I guess, in this controversial conspiracy theory world would be Infowars, Alex Jones.
oh yeah,
I always watched him just because I found him entertaining. Not always, but I would occasionally watch him because I found him
yeah, he's funny.
entertaining. You take him with a grain of salt, and he puts on a show, and he probably has some sincere beliefs too. I don't know. He talks about God and Christianity, and I take it all with a grain of salt. But he's selling his products, like a lot of products. He's selling hard, and he makes a lot of money and whatever, and that's his choice. I'm like, whatever. But I started watching him back with the Bohemian Grove infiltration when he went to Bohemian Grove. I don't know if you saw that, but he snuck in to Bohemian Grove. Did you see that?
I did not.
Okay. Anyway, so there are all kinds of conspiracy theories, and it's a big business. It's a really huge business, and like David Icke back in the day, he used to talk about the lizard, the Queen's a lizard, and all the aliens, and all this sort of nonsense. And today, it's the same sort of stuff, but with more realistic conspiracy theories. And
Right.
there's a lot of deception and lies on the right wing of politics, and
Yeah.
they're just laughing at us because they're just doing gossip. Like, it's just like a gossip show on the right wing, and it's just like, I don't understand how you're supposed to take yourself seriously when you believe the nonsense coming out of the right wing propagandists when it's just a bunch of lies and gossip.
Oh, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, those guys. It makes you wonder if they're actually right wing, if they're just doing this to discredit
Controlled
right
opposition.
wing.
Controlled
Um,
opposition.
you know, I know what you're talking about. It's just it's really hard to discern what their motivation is by doing that crap. It's damaging. Like the whole QAnon
Yeah.
thing was kind of damaging.
Yeah.
But on the other side, they they do the same thing. So they have the mass media to help them,
Right.
push their conspiracy theories. They did it for years. And
Yeah.
even worse conspiracies that were far more damaging. So I don't think a lot of these guys on our side that do this stuff even get the traction, to make an impact.
Yeah.
Where the
Yeah.
others, where the others on the flip side, you had um, leftists pushing the whole Trump Russia conspiracy that was
Uh,
all based on hope. It was all a hoax. It's been proven so, and they pushed that for years on every media outlet in America, 24/7. Even though it was all a conspiracy theory, you
wh-
know.
what about Hunter Biden's laptop? Is that going to get any traction, or is it just they're just going to like people are brainwashed to ignore it because that's what the
I
mainstream
think
says?
that was another example of this kind of conspiracy theory. They tried to say that was fake. It was Russian propaganda. Then it was proven real after the election. I think anything that was of value in it after all this time is going to be gone.
Okay.
It's already been deleted,
Okay.
uh, and whatever's left is just going to be a bunch of
Sensational.
nothing.
Sensational stuff.
Pictures of Hunter Biden's dong. That's really all that's left on. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everybody's seen that enough. So I
Ah.
really don't see anything coming out of it. Um,
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, I had a real wake up call. I was never a big consumer of the mainstream media just because I didn't trust their lies. Because I was interviewed as an adolescent, as a teenager. I was interviewed by my local newspaper up here in Canada on two occasions, and in two different cities, and they misreported what I said. Like it's just a very simple street
yeah,
interview. Hey, what do you think about the hospital? Whatever, da da da. Okay, it's a local news item. What do you think
right,
about it? They can't report what I said. It's like it's two sentences or three sentences. You can't report that. How is it possible? So I concluded as a teenager that
right,
if they can't get this straight, how am I going to trust a complex story about something that's so
right,
convoluted? How can I think that I'm getting the truth here? So I've just been ignoring the mainstream media for my whole life, other than, O.J. Simpson, that got on my radar, and a couple of big stories got on my radar.
yeah,
Big stories get on my radar, but I'm very skeptical. But the big one for me was 9/11, September 11th. It's like, what the heck? What is this? And then I started looking into it. And the funny thing about the internet and about censorship is I'm allowed to talk about. I could talk about 9/11. I could talk about the craziest theories about what happened on 9/11, and they're not going to shut me down. They're not going to kick me off of YouTube. They're not going to do that because it's old news and nobody cares. And that's the way the machine works. The machine makes you care about certain issues today, and you have an approved opinion. You're allowed to have this opinion, but you cannot have that opinion, or we're going to shut you
right,
down. But after a certain amount of time, they know that doesn't have any power. No one cares if I have the truth about who shot JFK. No one cares. No one
right,
cares in those who are in control, and the people on the ground don't care. They might find it interesting if that's their pet theory or whatever, but
right,
basically the power is what's happening now, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening with Russia, what's happening with Ohio. Like, what's the truth now? And you can find out you're over the target if you're getting censored, right? So,
yeah, yeah,
it's a really strange thing how the time is a critical element, and there's some things that are time sensitive, and there are other things where they'll let you wear your tinfoil hat all day long. I don't care.
right, right.
So, what is it about Ukraine and the? I don't know what we're allowed to say, what we're not allowed to say. So this might be dangerous territory. But just talk in general terms. Do you think the people are being misled by the fog of war? And do you think you're getting a straight story from your politicians there in the
I
states?
No, we're not. I don't believe for a second we're getting a straight story from any side on this mess.
But do you like having your tax dollars sent over there?
Oh God, no. So yeah, I don't support this war in any. I'm not, and I get called pro-Russia for this all the time. I'm not pro-Russia. I'm not anti-Russia. I'm
Yeah.
not pro-Ukraine. I don't give a crap about the Ukraine, and I think the majority of Americans feel the same way. There's a small vocal minority that's all gung ho, but we started the war, so and we're just going to fund these people forever and pay their pensions and rebuild their country after we destroy it. It's never going to be won. We're not going to win. We haven't. The United States hasn't won a war since World War II, and I don't even know if we actually won that. So it's yeah,
Oh, it's a painful pill to swallow. It's a very painful pill to swallow when you just got through the 3 years from hell, 2.5 years from hell, with all that nonsense, and then
right.
boom, it's like it's like the powers that be in the States just like said, okay, that's done. Now this is the topic of the day. It's like
Yeah,
Ukraine,
yeah.
Russia. It's like
It's the
what?
new popular thing.
What? The issue, the current thing. Like it's the current thing.
I think it's a distraction. They have to distract from the economy. Yeah, that's a mess. I mean, grocery prices doubling, electric, gas, all of that. Some cases tripling. It's wages stagnating. I mean, driving businesses out of business. We've lost so many businesses in my town in just the last couple of years. All we have left is pot shops now. We don't even have restaurants are all shutting down. We lost another one yesterday. A pizza place that's been there for probably 20 years or more shut down. Things are closing down. People don't want to work. Wages aren't high enough in a lot of jobs because inflation is so high. And people are better off just on the dole.
Yeah.
The government needs to distract from this, and war is definitely a good distraction. Well, now they got UFOs and Chinese balloons, and the next thing is who knows what that's going to be, but they're going to be one distraction after another to keep people's minds off of what's going on around them. So,
Well, I read an article in I don't know, it was Newsweek or something, and talked about how it's a profitable war, Ukraine and Russia. It's a profitable war, and they had their explanation for how it's going to pay off in the long run, and it's going to be a good thing financially and economically for the US of A. So they've got their, maybe they know something we don't know, but it's still sick and evil. Like there's still innocent
yeah,
people suffering in Ukraine. Like
right.
you say you don't care, but I'm sure you do care about the individuals that are
I care
suffering.
about the people, but I don't care about the politics of
Yeah,
the war.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. They've been used like a toilet for how many
yeah,
generations now? It is sick and disgusting. So on a more positive note, because I do have to go, my wife wants me to cook her dinner now. On a more positive note, to end things off here,
yeah,
talk about like you told me, you're sort of in a circumstance where you have children and grandchildren. You have to have hope, and you do fear God. You're a Christian man. So I want you to leave us with something positive for the future, maybe a little vision or what an individual that's listening to this might do, just little easy steps about how to, improve their family or their personal life or their walk with God or whatever. Just something positive that the individual listening to this might grasp onto for hope.
for hope. Geez, that's a tough one. Um, um, just take care of your families. That's what it comes down to. Take care of your own, make sure they're safe. Um, and yeah, your community. Don't let your community become what's becoming in the cities. Move out of the cities if if that's what's taking you down. Move out. There's always a place to go.
Yeah, but
It's better,
that's not what the WEF wants, and the you know, the
right?
UN, and they've got a different plan. They want everyone in the cities, 15-minute cities. They want us locked down and controlled. And so you're saying the opposite. Let's go to the country and form
Yeah, get out of the city,
communities and
take care of your
take care of your
families,
family. And
get out in nature. That's you know, get some, get out of the sound and the urban nightmare
yeah.
stuff. I mean, I loathe the city. I don't even like to visit it. So I've been to Quebec and
Oh,
Montreal.
okay,
They're nice.
okay.
They're nice cities.
Well,
I would
they're
never want to live
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
You
They're
know,
you know, it's an ugly, ugly city, Montreal. The reason I like it is because, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I mean, I do like it. This is not a right-wing position that I have, but I do like the diversity, if you'll excuse the dirty
yeah,
word. I do like, you know, just seeing multicultural, multi-ethnic people and hearing the languages and smelling the foods and the music, and it's sort of a cultural thing. But it is a hot mess. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, I don't know if you've been here, but it's like you have been here, but it's like a third world with the potholes and the
yeah,
infrastructure. You talk about infrastructure in Ohio or wherever. The
yeah,
infrastructure is a nightmare, and you just wonder where your tax dollars are going. But there's that grungy sort of romanticism. When I was a teenager, I came here for the first time, and it was big and it was smelly and dirty and a lot of sin.
right,
You can see you know, the mafia people and the bums on the street and the Hasidic Jews walking around, and you got the, you know, Muslims with their get-ups, and it's sort of like a futuristic thing, because I came from a small town in the country, so when I came here
right,
it was like, wow, what is this, you know? So
right.
yeah, I like it in spite of all the ugliness and the toxins and all the corruption, you know, the corruption
Right.
that's here. But yeah, I agree with you. You know, if you can get in touch with the simpler things and the family and relationships and community and nature, that's a beautiful thing. So I really appreciate you taking the time, my brother, and we'll see each other on Twitter. And
Okay.
you're free. You're welcome to come back anytime, chit chat about everything. And take
Okay.
good care of yourself and your wife and your kids, your grandkids. All the best. God bless you. And
Yep.
I hope you'll remember me and mine in your prayers, because you and you are in
Yeah.
my prayers. Okay.
It was very nice meeting you. So,
All right, my friends. So take good
all right.
care, and we'll talk very soon. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye bye. Bye.
Bye.